Hello and welcome to another Josh Plays 40k painting tutorial. Today I will be painting a dirty Necron Flayed One with a sort of slightly rusted body look with bloodied claws. So I hope you enjoy this, and let's grab some brushes. So the first thing I've done, like with any Necron, is I've undercoated the model with lead belcher spray. You can paint this on by hand if you would prefer, over a black undercoat, but if you've got lead belcher to hand, it's nice, quick and easy, especially if you're doing many of these models. Once you've got that base coat applied, the first thing to do is to shade the miniature. Now what we're going to be doing is focusing on all of the metal work. Don't worry about the skin parts that are sort of draping over him. Obviously if you can't help but go over them, don't worry about it, because we'll be covering them up again later, but otherwise we'll be going over the whole miniature, all of the body work. A good coat, obviously don't want it pooling too much, but just nice to get the definition on those recessed areas. Once that shade is dry, we're going to start bringing a little bit of shine back to the armour. Not too much, because we want it to look old and rusted, but really just picking out some of the sharpest edges and raised edges of highlights. And for this we're going to use Rune Fang steel, and you're just going to be picking out any sort of interior bolts or joins in the legs here, like so. Anything raised or that would catch some light, ready for when we attach the dry brush for the rust. But just work your way around the model and pick some out. One point is very due noted is that obviously we want the claws to look quite sharp and bright again, so just go round the edges of those carefully with this colour and just start bringing the shine back to those, and we will then add a little extra highlight to those in a little while. After you finish with the Rune Fang steel, we're going to move on to a brighter highlight of Stormhost silver. This is just for the claws, and it is just to pick out the sharpest points and edges of each claw. Once you're finished with the Stormhost silver, we're going to start adding that rust effect now, which is using the dry paint riser rust, just to give that nice orange tinge to the model. And you're going to want quite a small dry brush for this, just so that you don't get it all over all of the shiny claws that you've already done, and any areas that you do want to try and keep the shine to. But really just sort of start gently brushing away over the metal work until you get the nice rust effect that you're looking for. Now there is no right or wrong answer as to how much you want to add. You can simply just keep going until you're happy, and then we can move on to the next stage. Once you're happy with how that rust effect looks, we're going to go to Abaddon Black, and this is just for the chest piece in there where the symbol is, and you're just going to put a nice coat over the top of that, ready for us to add the green to in a moment. Once that black is applied and dry, we're going to move on to Moot Green to add some of the standard sort of green effects that we have. So the eyes, for instance, just gently rub your brush over part of the socket, and again on the other side as well. And then not forgetting the chest symbol in the middle there. Once you're happy with that green, we're going to start blocking in the flesh areas now. Now depending on which Flayed One you're painting, they will differ. They obviously have different bits of flesh draped over them. So for this one, for instance, you've got this piece draping over the arm and a sort of pin to the back. So for this we are using Flayed One flesh. Now putting this over silver doesn't cover it greatly, so don't worry if you don't get it on the first coat, but a second coat will certainly cover that up ready for the shades. Once you're happy with those 2 coats of paint on this skin, we're going to start adding some shade to that skin. So the first thing we're going to do is a mix of contrast medium and Magos purple. Now for this, it is roughly sort of 5 to 6 small brushfuls of contrast medium to 1 small brush of Magos purple. Now depending on how many models you are painting, you may need to obviously adjust that so you get a bit more to it, but for doing sort of 1 to 5 models, this sort of mix should be enough for how much skin is on them. Now it's very simple, just go over all of the skin, sort of focusing mostly on where it recesses. Now obviously for some of the flat areas it won't show greatly, but that is where the next shade comes in. But just go all over it and let it dry. Once that first shade is dry on the skin, we're going to move on to the next shade, which is Carabug Crimson. Now this again is going to be diluted with Lamia Medium, and similar to before, I have done 5 small brush fills of Lamia Medium to 1 small brush of Carabug Crimson. So again, obviously if you are painting lots of models, you will want to adjust the formula, but otherwise, similar to before, we are just going to go around the model on the skin and drop the shade mostly in the sort of recessed areas rather than all over the skin. In particular, obviously round by the knuckles for this one, but just work your way around. Obviously each model has a slightly different skin. Once you're happy with that second shade, we're going to move on to highlighting that skin. First of all, we're going back to Flayed One Flesh, and what we're looking to do here is just pick out the raised areas again of the flesh, anything that you don't want to be overly dark with the shades. Obviously work your way around each of the models in turn, depending on how many you're doing. Once you're happy with that highlight of Flayed One Flesh, we're going to go on to a very small thin highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh, just for the very edges of this skin. And then as a final effect to the whole model, we're going to get some Blood for the Blood God technical paint and just add some bloody patches and smears up the claws. So like this on the skin, just sort of dotting it on in certain places just to give you that sort of blood stained effect. Now really this is a very personal choice, so you can either put as much on of this or as little as you like, depending on how grubby you want it to be. And then when you come to doing the claws, sort of start at the very tip and just sort of rub your brush gently back, almost a bit like a dry brush, but lighter, and build up that blood on the claw. Obviously not forgetting to mirror and match the sort of smear line that you go for on both sides. And here we have our finished Necron Flayed One. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for future videos. We hope to get many out in this first part of 2023. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comment section below and I will come back to you. Otherwise, thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next video.